Hello there, welcome along to another mixed martial arts conversation for Sky Sports. Very pleased to say that Laura Sanko joins us, UFC analyst, trailblazing journalist there, former fighter as well, an MMA aficionado. Laura, great to see you. Just come off air as well for the weigh-in show to date this a little bit. And you're having a good time Friday morning already. How are you?
Always a good time on the weigh-in show. That show might be my new favorite. Probably Contender Series still takes the #1 spot, but we always have a good time on the weigh-in show. It's always a lot of alcohol involved somehow. I'm not gonna lie. I just had half a cocktail, so this should be an extra excellent interview.
Yeah, looks like some brilliant cocktails. Now, I know you're in the heart of the Covington Masvidal fight weekend, but what we wanted to talk to you about was International Women's Day on Tuesday, the 8th of March, particularly in the context of MMA and the UFC, what's happened there over the past decade. And I actually just looked up the International Women's Day mission statement, which was help forge a gender equal world. When you think about that mission statement, what do you think of what the UFC has done in pioneering women's potential, their achievement, and I suppose what's possible for other sports and for women outside of sport?
I think the UFC is special and exclusive in the way that they treat their female athletes, truly do. And I think part of that is the nature of the sport, and part of that is specifically the UFC and how they have forged a path for the women who do this sport. You know, when you think about, we have in America, we have the NBA and the WNBA. Every time you have men's and women's versions of a sport, they're very segregated, very separate. MMA is so unique in the way that the male athletes and the female athletes are presented on the same platform, given the same due. Some of our biggest stars in the UFC, of course, Ronda Rousey comes to mind, have been female. And so while I think it took a second to prove that women's MMA was a good business to be in, I think that once people's eyes were opened to how special it is to see female athletes go inside the octagon and fight, I would say, I think women fight with a particular mission in mind, but to see what the UFC has done with that, it's incredibly special. And I'm very honored to be a part of not just the sport, but of the UFC.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Ronda Rousey there, and I think maybe if you take out Conor McGregor from the conversation, she's almost the biggest crossover star that MMA has seen in terms of popular culture. I remember her obviously on Entourage and things like that. She was a huge character. And what about Dana White's part in that and how he approached it? Because it's obviously famous on the internet that he said women weren't going to be a part of the UFC in 2011. He changed his mind. He strikes me as someone that doesn't change his mind because of other people's opinions. He changes it because of hard facts and performances. Was it undeniable, irresistible, I suppose, that women had to be a part of the UFC? Is that why Dana changed tack?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that it took a particular athlete to change his mind. It couldn't just be someone, because let's be honest, there were excellent female mixed martial artists before Ronda came along. She was the perfect mix of someone who was crushing it in terms of her sport. I mean, the way that she was winning was incredibly special. So she ticked that box. She had a particular look that I think wasn't so much about, oh, we want to turn her into a sex symbol. I think she had the look that took people by surprise. You know, I think back then people had a perception of what fighters look like, in particular, what female fighters look like. And when you saw her, you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, this woman beats people up for a living. So she checked that box. But what Dana White, and I can tell you this from experience, what Dana White really respects in his athletes and in people in general, but I would say in particular in women, is a certain air of confidence and a knowing that they are capable of carrying on the task that they are asking him for. So when Ronda came to him and said, listen, I can be a huge star for the UFC. I can be good business for you. I can forge a path, not just for myself, but for other women in this sport. It took her specifically speaking to him for him to go, okay, when you say it, I believe you. And credit to Dana for changing his mind, and big credit to Ronda for changing it.
Yeah, it's a credit to him, actually, isn't it? You say that because you know that personally. I've read quotes from him and you around your debut as a commentator and breaking history in that regard. Was it just a case of he said, well, show me you can do it, and if you can, then you've got it?
I think to some degree, yes. You know, what happened with he and I was interesting because and it happened through Contender Series. When I started doing Contender Series, a lot of people think that that's where I started with the UFC. It's actually not. I was a backstage reporter when we were on Fox. And so he had interacted with me in that regard. But when they put me in this new role in Contender Series, when you're doing immediate post-fight interviews, you have to have, I think, an extra special knowledge of the sport. And the first season, he didn't really put his earbuds in. He didn't really listen because he wanted to watch the fights and decide who would make it into the UFC just based on his own perception of the fight. The second season, he put his earphones in, and there was one, I don't remember what episode it was, but there was an episode where he texted me and he said, "Oh my God, literally everything you said, every question you asked was exactly what I was thinking about the fight." And he ended it with, "You really know your stuff, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. Yeah," I said, I do. And it wasn't long after that that I very brazenly, and I'll be honest with you, it was after a Contender Series show, and I had had a few drinks with the guys down at the hotel bar. And I remember going back to my hotel room and thinking, I need to seize this opportunity to tell him what I want out of this life, I guess, and that I'm capable of doing more than just having the after fight interviews, which I enjoy, but like I know I'm capable of more. And so a couple cocktails in, I wrote him this long message on Instagram, and I said, "Listen, Dana, I want you to know I used to fight. I know I haven't fought in the UFC, so I don't have this long resume, but I'm telling you, I know that I can be the first female color commentator in the UFC. I know that I can do it. And if you will allow me to prove it to you, I will not let you down." And all he did was write back, "I believe you." Now, whether he was just placating me and that was his way of going, like, "Go to bed, please stop messaging me," or, or perhaps he meant it. But regardless, I was determined to prove it to him.
Was that a direct message or was that a public message you sent, Dana?
It was a direct message. It was
okay,
I slid right on it.
Yeah, I say a public one would have been fantastically brave. For you, how has it been received by you? You're obviously very popular on social media. By the public, how have you been supported? How have you been supported by the UFC? And do you feel that's different as a female broadcaster than perhaps women in other sports are received? In the UK, obviously it's football, soccer, you would call it, or NFL in the States. Do you feel it's been a more accepting environment because perhaps the UFC is so fast evolving in such a new entity?
I think so. I'll be honest, I've been very pleasantly surprised because we have a notoriously tough fan base. I'm one of them. That's how I started loving this sport before I ever started training it. I was a little worried about how that would go. I think anytime you do something for the first time, there's always a hesitation of like, how are people going to receive this? And in particular, when you take someone from a role where they are very much, I'm asking the questions. And to be honest with you, sometimes they are the questions that get asked almost every single fight.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of creativity there. And you take that same person that people get used to seeing in a sideline reporting role, and all of a sudden put them in a position where they are allowed not only to have an opinion and thoughts, but call action in a live environment. I was very nervous about how people would take it, but I think that my time in the LFA, the credibility that I was able to build on Dana White's Contender Series, calling fights for Invicta, everything sort of perfectly led up to having what I felt like was a surprisingly good reception from the fans. But at the end of the day, as tough as they are, and there's always going to be, trust me, I get plenty of horrific comments on Twitter or whatever, but the fans in MMA and the UFC fans in general appreciate people who love the sport and really know the sport inside and out. And I check both those boxes. I absolutely do. I love the sport. I've been neck deep in MMA since 2006, and I'm not going anywhere. And I think that they can read that. And as soon as they read that and don't make any assumptions about me based on how I look or the type of work I did previously, then we're good to go.
Yeah, I think knowledge beats all sort of judgment, doesn't it? It's interesting you talk about your fighting career pre-UFC. Who should we talk about? Because I wanted to mention Chris Cyborg, I want the big names of the current day, but who should we talk about? Roxy Modafferi, people talked about her recently retiring. Mm-hmm. Who were the pioneers who pushed it over the hill, who weren't perhaps in the spotlight getting the glamour and the money, who made women's MMA such a force?
There are women, there's one that comes to mind for me because I was an atomweight, so I very much looked up to other atomweights. Megumi Fuji was a fighter who, Debbie Purcell, all these names are rushing into my mind right now. Women's MMA has been like an underground bubbling force since the early 2000s. But back then, you know, back when I was fighting even, it was kind of relegated to this weird sideshow thing where, you know, you'd sign up for a fight and I would get asked like, are you going to fight in a sports bra? We would really like you to fight in the sports bra, you know, things that you would never dream of asking a female athlete. Now, it was a very strange time, but the growth of the sport has been the trajectory has been so steep. It's just, it makes me happy in my heart to see the growth of women's MMA, the growth of the MMA overall, but the growth of women's MMA in particular, and how far we have come, and the role that the UFC has played in making that. But I feel like I'm rambling a bit. To your point, there are many women who have pioneered. Gina Carano, Chris Cyborg, Megumi Fuji. There is a whole generation of fighters who never got any credit for what they did, but they were the first to do it. And I would say even the generation of women like myself who, you know, when I came to MMA, I had no hope of turning this into a career. You know, there was no, oh, you can reach stardom if you work really hard. Oh, you can make a career, you can make a lot of money. That did not exist at all. And it's the women who came to the sport because of what it did to their soul and because of what it did inside of their mind that I think are the real pioneers in which the success of fighters today have made their fortunes.
Absolutely. Have you ever been tempted to get back into the cage with the UFC female fighting era?
You know, I fought at 105 back when I fought, and the UFC does not have an atomweight division. So that kind of, I think in the years where that would have been highly possible, it wasn't possible because they don't have my division, and it would take a very special fight to kind of, you know, draw me back in. That being said, you know, every time I work a big fight, the excitement of fight night, I mean, it's just undeniable. I think I kind of fill that void now, that need for adrenaline and that need to be close to the sport with calling fights, with participating, you know, in all of the various avenues that I do. And yeah, I think my way of wanting to pay back the sport and pay back those women that I mentioned before for all of the sacrifices that they made is do what I'm trying to do now and still trying to do now, which is continue to forge a path for women broadcasters inside the UFC.
Absolutely. We're doing a fantastic job. I'm just trying to work out what 105 pounds would be in stone, pounds, and ounces over here. I think it's something like 7.5 stone. So it's not a big weight at all. That's
no,
very slim.
It's small.
Yeah. So it's you can enjoy your cocktails more certainly this way around, which is fantastic. Who should we look at in the, I suppose, the Hall of Fame top 3? Who would you put there for MMA? Does Cyborg have to be there for winning the titles across four competitions, 4 franchises?
Absolutely she does. I mean, I think Chris Cyborg, she's a pioneer of this sport. As you said, every organization that she's gone to, she has displayed this level of dominance that was, I think, part of what made her such a spectacle, part of what made people like, wow, I've never seen a woman be this ferocious, this strong, this powerful, this dominant, this violent. She was special in her own right and would absolutely have to be in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Ronda Rousey. We've already talked about Ronda Rousey. And I'm not sure who I would put as the third. There are so many, you know, Valentina is who immediately jumped to my mind right now, because to me, she's the epitome of a champion in every respect. Inside of the octagon, outside of the octagon, the woman is near perfect in everything that she does. And so to be an exemplary individual, to be a dominant, long-reigning champion, I mean, you do not see an end to her title reign anytime soon. At least as of now, I would put her as the third.
And who do you look forward to in 2022 on the female side of things, in terms of maybe being a breakout star, a future huge star? A lot of attention, of course, around the Olympic champion Kayla Harrison, her contract up at PFL. You may know if she's going anywhere, whether something's been signed that I don't know. But is she the big star, or do you see someone else becoming I suppose, one of the leading lights?
Kayla Harrison is absolutely a huge star, massive star. And another woman that I think displays, not unlike Chris Cyborg, this dominance that is so unique to her. Inside the UFC, it is such an exciting time to be a female MMA fighter. And I feel like we're just now seeing a generation of women who started training MMA to train MMA just now. When I was coming up, and even a few years ago, everybody came to MMA through Taekwondo or karate or occasionally wrestling. Everybody had a particular martial art, and then eventually they kind of found MMA. Now we're seeing women, young girls who are starting to train at 7, 8 years old, and you can just imagine the future, what that's going to look like. And I think it was Anthony Smith and I did the you a few months back, and we were talking about the greatness of Valentina Shevchenko, and both of us agreed if anybody is going to beat her, she's probably about 12 years old right now, but she's already training. And that's the crazy part, because that's what we're starting to see.
And the inspirational effects, speaking about more somber topics, but in the UK, there's been a lot of focus on women's safety out and about on the streets. There's been some horrible incidents there, and also domestic violence on the rise during the pandemic and lockdowns and things like that. How important is it for these fighters to inspire young girls just to take up a martial art or mixed martial arts to help give them that confidence, that self-empowerment when they're moving around the world?
Absolutely. I think, it's not even necessarily about becoming someone who's capable of beating up other people or capable of, getting the better of someone in a physical exchange. For me, training martial arts gave me a confidence about knowing what I was able to withstand, to be honest with you. I understood, I guess I understood my power more. And I absolutely think that any amount of martial arts training is so incredibly important for young women, just to be able to understand that side of who they are as a person. Because I really do believe that every person, but in particular every woman, there is a fighter inside. And a lot of times when women hear that I train or whatever, like, oh gosh, the first thing they say is, oh gosh, I could never take a punch. And I always say, yes, you could. You absolutely could. If your child needed you to, or if there was some situation where your child was in danger, yes, you could. If someone that you loved was in a situation, absolutely you could. And so I think martial arts is a way that women are able to, I don't know, I guess, get in touch with the inner warrior.
Well, it's fantastic to hear your words. I'll definitely show that to my daughter as well. She's 7 years of age, try and persuade her to get out of or maybe not away from ballet, but add MMA to her ballet studies at the moment.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Do both. That's the key, right? You don't have to be some uber athletic tomboy and only do those things. You can be feminine and a fighter at the same time. Absolutely. That's the joy. And I think the power of being a woman. You don't have to pick one lane. You can do it all.
Well, Laura, it's been a powerful conversation. Really appreciate your time here with us on Sky Sports, particularly on Fight Weekend. I hope it's a great one for you, and we look forward to watching your work from afar here in London. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Great stuff. Thank you, guys. More MMA content, remember, skysports.com.